Hi, mommy YouTubers.
Like, comment, and subscribe down below. No, smash that like button until you can't hit it no more.
So appropriate for the video I'm recording today. I just want to. 2020 has been a year of milestones as a mom for me because my two crazy kids that you can probably still hear yelling and making noises in the background are turning milestone ages. In addition to my stepchildren turning milestone ages, and as a thought, I decided to. Well, really, at this point, it's kind of like lunch with leash, but my breakfast leash with leash video, um, just to reflect on my birth story. My little Joelle, was born January 2nd, 2008, at about 11 p.m. I want to say. It's funny, my mom can tell me the exact time I was born, but I kind of forget when my own kids was born. Randomly, everything about my pregnancy was going well. I didn't have any type of complications or anything. And then randomly, I went into labor. We waited for a couple hours to see, the pains would stop, the way they suggest, but it didn't stop. It got worse. By the time we got to the hospital, I had started bleeding, and while waiting in triage for the doctor to come, and once he came and examined me, he was like, "Oh, you're 8 centimeters dilated." So they rushed me over to labor and delivery because it was at that point. I mean, there's nothing really they can do to stop labor, especially when it's that active. The most they can ever do is probably slow it down. But at that point, it was just moving progressively, and there was nothing they could do. So in the midst of them transferring me from one bed to the next, he came. His head, I couldn't move anymore. I'm yelling, I can't move. And they look like his head is coming out. 2 pushes, all natural. He came right out. He came right out weighing a little over 3 pounds, 3 pounds 12 ounces, 19 inches long as baby. And he came at 31 and a half weeks. So he was about, was that 8 weeks early. So it was crazy. It was a crazy time. So with the fact that I randomly just went into preterm labor, and with going into preterm labor, at this moment in time, at least for me, it was the doctors had no reason or why or how I just went into labor. I don't know why. So they didn't know why. So it was just kind of like, you have another baby, then it's just something we have to be mindful of. And get to child number 2, and they were very mindful in watching me. I was on medication, which was that I had to get administered by a needle every week in my thigh or buttocks area. So I just chose to get it in my butt. And every week, I have to have a butt cheek that was sore for a couple days. So I got to about six months. Everything seemed to be going okay, and then I went to visit the high risk doctor who was also the ultrasound doctor. And during his ultrasound, he said, you're a half a centimeter dilated already. So he sent me to the hospital. He was but I'm like, am I okay? The baby, yeah, you're okay. The baby's okay, but you shouldn't be dilated at all. Your cervix should be all the way together, and you're already a half a centimeter dilated. So he in order to make sure like I wasn't in labor or like at that moment, he sent me to the hospital. He sent me to the hospital. The most uncomfortable thing about being pregnant and going through this, like going through preterm labor, like you have all these different doctors examining you and residents examining you, and they're all using a measurement system by their fingers to stick in your vagina. It's so uncomfortable. Like it's the most uncomfortable thing. Like, I, Lord, like it's just very uncomfortable. So with that, it's just you don't know exactly what's right. You know how exactly accurate the dilation that you are, because you have one doctor come in and says, "Oh, you're a centimeter. You're 1 to 2. Now you're 1 to 2 centimeters." Then another doctor comes and says, "Oh, you're 3 to 4." And then another doctor comes and says, "No, she's still 1 to 2." So all the back and forth, I ended up on house arrest in the hospital for the weekend. I stayed there. They monitored me, and the ultrasound doctor, Dr. Wong, I will never forget this. Got this doctor. He was like an Asian doctor. He was just funny. That's the best thing I can say. Like he was just hilarious. And he was like, "No, you're still 1/2 centimeter." He was the one that explained to me, everybody's using the measuring system with their hands, and people have different size fingers, so everybody is not going to come out with the same, like the same measurement. So he was like, the most accurate is with the ultrasound. So he used the ultrasound. He saw I was still 1/2 centimeter. He let me go home. He's like, "I'm not putting you on bed rest, but like just relax. Don't do too much walking, no sex, no like pretty much no heavy lifting, no extra anything. Like just sit down." So I came home. I go back to my regular doctor to get my regular doctor my regular checkup. She says she can feel the baby's bones when I like she could feel the baby bone when she examined me. So she sent me back to the hospital. This is hospital visit number 2. So this time they keep me a little while longer because I was literally just in the hospital, and they gave me, before they admitted me, they had me in labor delivery. They gave me like this muscle relaxer that to try to help slow down like me being in labor, because they felt like I was, going to be like in active labor, even though like my water hadn't broke. Nothing else was happening other than the fact that they knew that I had dilated. So it was just the scariest thing ever. Felt like I was just like high as a kite. The doctor is telling me all these things my baby could be at risk for if I have her, early. Because at this point, like, I'm 25, 26 weeks. And, like, so I'm just, like, stressed. Like, I don't want it. And that time was, like, right before Thanksgiving. I'm like, I do not want to be in this hospital for Thanksgiving. Like, I want to go eat my grandmom's food. Like, I need to eat Connie's ham. I need to get my own sweet potato pie. Like, I was worried about getting home. Like, this is crazy. Like, nothing's happening. I'm not feeling anything. I'm not feeling any cramps, any pain, nothing. So, again, they keep me, but then, they see I had dilated more out, but it wasn't, I guess, it wasn't as much as what was originally thought. It was more of a, like, now at this point, I was more of a whole centimeter. So, I was able to go home in time for Thanksgiving, came home, but then that weekend after Thanksgiving, that Sunday evening, I started having really bad cramps that was like going off and on, and then I started bleeding. Not a lot of blood, but I was spotting. So when I go back, so this time I go to the emergency room myself. We go to the emergency room because of everything that has happened. They just check me in, and after waiting for a while to make sure I wasn't in active labor or wasn't about to start active labor, they just admitted me. And at this point, when the doctor saw me, when I got on to the floor this time, the doctor was like, "This your third time in the hospital. We just gonna keep you till you 7 months. Like you just gonna have to stay here till you 7 months, and we'll see what happens once once we get there." So that meant I was about to be in the hospital for about a good week and a half at that point. So I was there, and I was just going through, pretty much I was just on bed rest, begging people to visit me, to keep me company, bring me real food, because hospital food is horrible. And eventually, I want to say it was like that Friday. Like earlier that Friday, it was crazy because earlier that Friday they sent me for an ultrasound to see, just to kind of see where I was at. And one of the biggest concerns was if I did go into labor, like I would have to get an emergency C-section because Lana wasn't she wasn't in the right position. So they would have to give me an emergency C-section. And what happened, like when we got my ultrasound, she started turning. Like she started turning into the birth canal. And it was like, oh, she had turned like halfway. So it was just crazy, like that she had just randomly turned it halfway. Me not thinking nothing of it, like whatever. Like, oh, okay. Then later on that night, I called a nurse because now I'm feeling pain. Like I'm feeling really bad cramps. I'm bleeding. Like I'm feeling contractions. My water hasn't broke, but I'm feeling contractions. So they send me down to labor and delivery. Once they send me down to labor and delivery, like they're like, yeah, you're in active labor. By that point, like I started just dilated. I was already almost like 7 centimeters. Called my mom. My mom rushed to the hospital. My mom was just like during both of my labors. Like she was there. She was my real MVP. Like she was just my rock. Like she always is, but like she definitely was my rock. And she came through. She got there kind of like just in time. And still, again, I asked for the epidural, but Lana decided she was gonna come before even that stuff could even get into effect. So this time, like they did the ultrasound, and she was already in the birth canal, like making her way down. So she knew she was coming that day, and sure enough, at like 1:12 in the morning, she came December 3rd, 2010, like sliding out 1 pound, 10 ounces, and 17 inches long. And now is the craziest part is the craziest and the most difficult part is just like, okay, your first thing you worry about is your baby being healthy. So they were both healthy, but it's just like you don't get to, in those state, like the doctors, they have to attach all these tubes to them because they're born earlier, so their lungs aren't fully developed, so they're on like breathing machines. They have the ability to like suck on a bottle wasn't formed yet, so they're getting fed through a feeding tube, so they got to put the feeding tube in them, like all these things. And then you just, with Joe, he was literally ripped from me and like came out, cut the cord, and whisked away, like literally. But Lana, she, it was more of a process, and then I didn't get to see Joe for like hours. It was, as opposed to with Lana, it was like more time for the prenatal team to get there to be able to prep and then like take her. But still, when I saw her, she was in a box. I didn't get to put her on my chest or like see her like for 2 seconds. So it's like the hardest thing that you kind of go through. And you know, this child is a part of your body for all these months, and you can't wait for the moment to finally see them, and then you don't get to like really see them because they're in a box. Like literally. So that was hard. Joe spent about 3 weeks in the hospital. Lana spent 2 months in the hospital. Joe came home. He was a little over 4 pounds. Lana was almost 4 pounds when she came home. Like she like right at the 4-pound mark. And and Dora Pediatrics, Dr. Dan was like the greatest pediatrician in the world for both of them. And I just did what he said, and we just kept him healthy. And you know, Joel's pretty much kind of grown out of his asthma. Lana hasn't, but they still are so far from where they started. Like, they just really are. They were these tiny little babies that you could literally hold in one hand to being these little trolls that they are in the background of my video.
I'm trying to show you something. She in the YouTube video. Leave her alone.
I'm not even going to edit this out because they're just irking.
We not.
But
I'm trying to show you on
you
TV,
are. You
email.
can show me that after.
And he trying to drag
That's
me.
the 13-year-old, and that's the 10-year-old.
I tried to drag her out of here. She won't come. As she was saying, she was talking about something, and as we were saying, we gotta get out. So come on.
They love each other. They have this whole
Get out.
like old married couple relationship, as you can see. But it's the day in the life with freaking Fred, my dynamic duo.
No.
Alright, I hope y'all enjoyed the story. All natural birth ain't no joke for all the people that did it. I was right there with you, not by choice. And yeah, but it did help my snapback, I will say that. But till next time, and like they said, Joe, tell them again. Joe, you gotta tell them again.
Tell him what?
What you tell them to do?
Like, subscribe, and comment down below.
You gonna say it too loud?
Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment down below. All these emojis.
Bye.